Beautiful. Right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. Mark and I will be going through our next presentation on motivation under pressure. I'll keep my intro very brief. Just a little bit of housekeeping to everyone. Stay on mute, please, during this so that Mark doesn't interrupt his flow and we can get the full spectrum of his knowledge and intellect. If you do have questions while this is going along, then ping them in the chat. I'll stay in the chat and answer them as we go along. If we have time at the end, then we will do a bit of a live Q&A after the recording for those of you that are able to stay and join us. So that's it from me. I will hand over to the wonderful, the glorious Mr. Mark Ormrod.
All right, guys, good evening. Welcome to Motivation Under Pressure. I'll take the hit on that. Spelling mistake. I'll own that one and I will change that one for the next time. But just to reiterate what Ben said, thank you guys for giving up your evening. I think there's only one newbie here this evening. I know the rest of you are already part of our community. So thank you for that. This is the latest webinar that we've put together. Those of you that are already part of the community know that these free webinars ultimately translate into follow-on courses on the membership site, the community site. So this is just like a taster, a bit of an intro. Shouldn't last any more than 30 minutes. Now, for those of you that are new, allow me to introduce ourselves. So who are we? We are Kaizen Summit. And if you don't know what Kaizen means, it is the Japanese philosophy of constant and never-ending improvement. That's the way we work. That's the philosophy we implement. We stay away from too much intensity, and it's more about discipline and consistency. That's how we operate. That's what we teach. That's the courses that we put up, and the mindset that we adopt. Now, we are a leadership consultancy and a mentoring company. So in the business to business world, we provide leadership development courses. We also create bespoke training and leadership courses, depending on what the issues that company are facing might be. And then we do mentoring with their mid to senior level executives. Now, in the B2C environment, like this, business to customer, we have our community site and we do one-on-one mentoring as well. Now, our entire company is owned, operated, and staffed by military veterans and members of the emergency services. Keep it quiet. There are some serving military amongst us as well, which is great. And we're partnered with a company called Echelon Front. They are our US counterpart. They were started about 15 years ago now, I think. And that company was created and initially staffed by former Navy SEALs. So I hope you get a bit of a flavor of the kind of level that we like to operate at, and the kind of experience that level brings with it. So why would you listen to us? Well, every member of our team has experienced operating under sustained pressure, whether that be through command courses, perhaps in the military, through humanitarian operations throughout the world, or through combat operations throughout the world. We have a wide range and a wide variety of leadership experience between us. I personally never even reached the dizzy heights of a lance corporal when I was in the military. Some of our staff and instructors are quite high-ranking men and women from the military. So we go all the way through the range. And what we teach are practical systems that have been tried and tested, not just theorized. And like I just said, we all have real-world experience of applying what it is that we teach in various different environments all around the world, arduous environments all around the world. All right, so what are you going to get out of today? Well, by the end of this session, you're going to understand what motivation really is And also, very importantly, why you can't rely on it. You're going to recognize and understand why motivation fades, but also while that's normal and it's nothing to get upset or distressed about. You're going to learn how to build discipline when motivation disappears, and you're going to leave with a practical way to create consistent and constant action. All right, so what this is and what this isn't. This isn't a high five, run around, woohoo, hugging each other, hyping each other up, telling each other that we're great. That's not what we do. And it's not about waiting to feel inspired. It's not waiting for motivation. It's about understanding how motivation works, why it fades, and then what replaces it when it does. Who this is for? This is for you. I know who you are because you're here. It's for people that want to improve, people that want to evolve, and people that want to get better. Like I said, Kaizen is the Japanese philosophy of constant, never-ending improvement, always improving, always evolving, always getting better. It's for people that want control, not avoidance. So once you understand certain things like motivation, there's a degree of control that comes with that. So you don't have to worry about it, you don't have to run away from it, you don't have to avoid it. Once you understand it a little bit better, you can control it a little bit better. And it's for people that want practical tools and systems, strategies and techniques, not rah and fluff. Okay, this is a question for you. Now, Ben is monitoring the chat box. No pressure. You don't have to type away like a lunatic or get stressed out. But I just want to know, what does motivation mean to you, and what is its purpose for you? So just think about it for a second. When it comes to you, when you have any ideas, write it in the chat box. Ben will monitor it. He will get back to you. I think it's important just for clarity that you have a little bit of a think and gain a little bit of an understanding. Now, I love this slide. I've never seen this saying or this phrase until earlier this week, but it says motivation is a moment. It fades, discipline lasts. Absolutely. Motivation is temporary. Discipline is what replaces it. That's what we teach. That's what we believe in. That's what we live. And that's what we want other people to understand and to believe in and to live too. Now, motivation is not a personality trait. You know, we've all met that one person, right, who always seems motivated, always full of energy, always running around, hyped up. They might just have drank too much Mountain Dew. I don't know. But it's not a personality trait. It's not necessarily a skill or even a mindset. You know, it's a feeling. And the great thing about feelings, I'm not going to get too high level and start talking about neuro-linguistic program or any of that nerdy stuff that I've studied over the years. But the beautiful thing about a feeling is that you can anchor it to come back whenever you need it. So, for example, you know, think about that song that comes on and it just takes you all the way back to the high school prom, and then the butterflies you had when you crush walked in the room and that kind of thing. Those feelings can be brought back, and they can be intensified, or they can be nullified, or they can be replaced. Now, I like this too. Feelings fluctuate. Standards should not. So what we teach are systems and structures and techniques and strategies to raise your standards and replace feelings with something that's a bit more practical. Something that can be used and recalled, and to a degree, I'll say relied upon when they're needed. Now, if you rely on how you feel, your output will always be inconsistent. I think everyone watching this now can relate to that. You know, and I think a really good example of this is, you know, New Year's resolutions. You know, a lot of you guys and girls on here now, you joined us on Recalibrate after Christmas. We talked about this a lot on there, about how people set New Year's resolutions and goals because, funnily enough, they're motivated, they feel good, but that very quickly degrades and falls off, and then they lose consistency. They don't quite have the discipline yet to keep things up, and then it fades off. And I forget the exact stat, but I think maybe within 26 days of the new year, 90% of people have quit. So, you know, don't rely on how you feel, rely on systems. But why does motivation feel so powerful? Again, go back to that Christmas period, that New Year's feeling, new year, new me. It feels like a brand new start, and it brings you energy and it gets you started. Then once you're started, you get momentum because you're excited and you feel good and all the feel good chemicals are released. The internal friction is reduced, but it's unstable. You know, it drops. It's hard to get back. It does come back. You know, some people are more motivated than others, and it spikes, but inevitably, because there's a feeling, it will drop again. And that is not a conducive way, not only to live in general, but particularly if you are setting goals. You know, Mark, I know you are. We've been talking about that offline. If you're setting goals and you've got targets and things that you want to work towards, those spikes, you know, they're no good. And if your current system depends on spikes, you know, that's what you're going to get in your results. We want this, not this. So what is the problem with chasing motivation after you've lost it, trying to get it back, trying to regain it? People, they wait. You know, they and I don't know if you've ever done this before. I mean, you've been motivated and you've lost it, and then you're like, okay, the feeling will come back, because a lot of people don't know any better than that. And when they wait, they delay things. You know, like your goals and your targets and the things you want to do in your life. They negotiate with themselves when they're not feeling motivated. Perfect example, hitting that snooze alarm. You know, when you're motivated and that alarm goes off, you've got to go, you're out of bed, no matter how cold it is, how dark it is. When you're unmotivated, you tell yourself, you know, 5 minutes, that's not going to matter, that extra 5 minutes, no one's going to know. And that 5 turns to 10, 10 to 15, 15 to 20. You start to drift. The drifting compounds. Again, the spark might come back, it might spike, but then it drops off again. So structure, habits, routines, these kind of things, this is what we want to replace motivation with. And the magic word, discipline. Now this, I hadn't heard of this actually either until we started putting this presentation together. I think we borrowed this from a gentleman called Chris Williamson, and I really like this. I've never seen this before, but it's almost like a hierarchy of, I was going to say human behavior. I don't think that's accurate. It's like a hierarchy of, or categorizations, if you like, of people. So you have people that are motivated and they say, you know, I want to do this thing. I'm motivated. Let's go. The next level to that is people that are disciplined. So they tell themselves they're going to do it, whether they feel motivated or not. And then you've got people that are obsessed and they cannot not do the thing because they're obsessed about it. Now, I don't think there's anything that I would say I was obsessed about, and I am not going to recommend that anyone gets obsessed about anything. I think it's quite a rare trait. And, you know, a good example of someone who's obsessed is a gentleman like Elon Musk. You know, why, if you are one of the richest men in the world, if not the richest man in the world, I mean, what motivates you to do any more, to get up every day when you've achieved so much already? No amount of discipline will really keep you going. You have to be obsessed. Whatever it is he's shooting for and he's aiming for, this gentleman must be obsessed about achieving that. And that's why he keeps going, he keeps going, he keeps going. Now, I like this too. Most people wait for motivation. High performers build discipline. Elite performers become obsessed with standards. So there's a caveat, actually. You should become obsessed with standards. That is one thing that I would say you should become obsessed with. Raising your standards, making this your minimum, and then when that gets a little bit stale, raising them again. So where does consistency come from? We just said it. Standards. clear standards. Now, you probably, that sounds a bit judgmental, you might not know what your standards are now. And one of the things that we do is help you understand that and unpick that, and then set that new standard for you to continue with. And like I said, as it gets stale, we level up, we level up, and we level up. Once you know what it is, I'm going off track a little bit here, but I feel, and this is what I do personally, it's good to have that standard as your mindset, because then when things get difficult, you go back and say, well, no, this is my standard. This is who I am. This is how I live. I have to perform at this standard, which for me personally is a massive internal motivator. Now, systems and routines is something that I've geeked out on for years. I've been doing this for a long time, and I'll just give you two very simple examples from thousands that I use daily. But just my morning routine and my evening routine. My morning routine sets me up for the day. I get up before anyone else is out of bed. I've got a little routine on my phone that I go through. I usually go down to jiu-jitsu and get beaten up by Ben. And I've done all that before 7 o'clock in the morning. And then I roll into my next system and my next routine. It might be emails. It might be social media. It might be creating content. It might be, creating presentations and doing marketing and sales, whatever it is on that particular day. Sticking to those systems and routines and telling myself that's my standard is how I perform in the way that I perform. Now, your environmental structure is super important too. I don't just mean necessarily this, although I'm a bit of an OCD clean freak. I don't operate optimally in a messy, dirty environment. But I also mean, when I say environmental structure, the people that you surround yourself with. You probably heard of, so I call them morale vampires. They're people that suck the life out of you. They suck the motivation out of you. They are always negative when you're trying to tell them about something positive that you're doing in your life. I am very brutal in pulling them from my life or limiting the time that I spend with them. And then I purposely and intentionally choose to have people around me that lift me up and motivate me and push me and hold me accountable and help me raise my standards. I always, wherever I go, we're talking about environmental people, I always want to be the dumbest person in that room, because I want to learn from people, because that raises my standards. So your environmental structure is super important too, and your identity. I talked about this very briefly just now. My identity linked to my standards and my systems and routines, and how I perform as a father, an athlete, a businessman, whatever it is. I have that internal identity which I've created over the years by doing these things that I'm telling you about. So what happens when you fall off? We were talking earlier about motivation dipping. You're coming off track. You're drifting a little bit. How do you get back on track? Well, you have two options. You wait for that feeling to come back, which I said just now is not a particularly smart strategy, I don't think, because we're all very, very different. For some people, it may come back quickly. Some people may have techniques and strategies to help with that, but most don't. Most people don't. And they wait and they wait and they wait. And it may come back, but that's a lot of waiting. And that's a lot of wasted time. So the other option is to execute anyway, no matter how you're feeling. That's through discipline, standards, identity, environment, structure, habits, routines. All of these things are going to help you and support you to execute on your goals and on the things you want to achieve when that motivation drifts. And as the slide says, control returns the moment you act, not when you feel like acting. Now, I mentioned this at the beginning. This is an important caveat, because motivation does naturally fluctuate, but don't beat yourself up about it. It doesn't mean that you're weak or you're broken or you're failing. It means that you're a human. Now, there's a lot of people that I look up to in my life who are way, way ahead of me. People that I admire. Some of them I've met, some of them I haven't. I admire them from afar. I've read their books. I go to their courses. I'm a member of their community sites. I like to learn from them about what they're doing. And what's great when I'm in those community sites and when I go to their live events and things like this is you see a completely different side of these people, and they're very open and they're very vulnerable, and they have no issues telling you about when their motivation fades, or when they failed to achieve something. You see people on social media a lot, and I think you put them on a pedestal. We all put them on this pedestal and think that they're gifted or they're lucky, or they never have bad days, they never fail. They do, and when it comes to motivation, this happens to all of us. It dips sometimes. Don't beat yourself up about it, is the message. You're a human being. You have feelings, you have emotions. We all have complex lives. We can't always be motivated. That's why we need all these tools. And I like that too. The solution is not emotional intensity. I mentioned this at the beginning. It's an operational structure. So when your motivation dips, don't go crazy and intense trying to figure out how to get it back. Don't, sit in that feeling too long. If you've got these structures and these environments and this identity that we're talking about, it comes back a lot quicker. Now, why is this hard alone? Now, I just talked about surrounding myself with the right kind of people, people that force me to be better and drag me up to a higher level. I would say I spend 75% of my life on my own. I travel a lot all over the world. I'm either in a car, in a plane, or in a hotel room, or in a conference room. And it is hard to do this on your own. Now, I've spent 2.5 decades working on myself, building myself up, disciplining myself, putting systems, habits, routines, structures, identity, standards, all these things in place to help me with that. But I understand that, maybe some of you don't have those people around you yet. I understand that it's hard alone. That's why I try as much as I can, online and offline, to be around people that can help me and support me. But this slide says it all. Standards slip when no one sees them. It'd be very easy for me. In fact, I'll tell you a true story here. I was in Spain on a Tony Robbins course called Wealth and Life Mastery. So it was about your health, and it was about money. And you had to do a 5-day juice detox. Now, I had my own hotel room, and in my hotel room, I had apples and nuts and snacks. And all day while we're in seminars and courses and we're learning, all we could drink was disgusting. It was like onion water, garlic water. You had salt water and all these things to make sure that no one was at risk of dehydration or anything like that. My point is, when I went back to my hotel room, the temptation when no one was around to have an apple, to open those bag of nuts, just to have a snack, was unbelievable for 5 days. And I managed for 5 days to avoid all of it. I just left it in my bedside cabinet, in the drawer, didn't touch it, because my standards that I set for myself were high enough to say, that's not me. I don't identify with that person. I don't cheat. I don't take shortcuts. Even when no one's around, I will maintain the standard. But it is hard. And it's so much better when you've got people around you. Excuses sound logical in isolation. So again, the alarm clock, I think, is a good example of that. Oh, I just hit the snooze button. It sounds logical. No one's around. No one's going to see. It's only 5 more minutes. It's not going to affect your day. It will, straight away, because you've lowered your standard. Now, also, momentum fades without accountability. I need, and I'm sure all of us do, people around us to hold us accountable. That's why when I sit here every Christmas and I write all my goals down, I make sure that I tell people them. Sometimes I'll even put them on social media if it's a huge goal. Maybe some of you have seen it with like the fundraising goals I've done. I put them out in the public domain because that makes me feel like everyone that follows me on social media is holding me accountable to raise the money that I said I was going to raise. And when you're riding a bike at 2 o'clock in the morning, you've been on for 19 hours and you've had enough and you want to quit, knowing that all those people are going to hold me accountable if I quit and I don't do it, is what keeps me going. So getting people around me to hold me accountable is super important. And most people don't lack potential. They lack the right environment, they lack high expectations that others put on them, and they lack accountability from others, which is why having a supportive and empowering community is so important. Speaking of supportive and empowering communities, that's what this webinar is about. We brought you here to, I know some of you are already members, but to talk to you about the Kaizen Summit community, our online digital community platform. So what is it? It is a place for ownership, improvement, and growth, not for venting, complaining, and lowering standards. Now, I like to explain it as a Facebook page without the noise and the BS. This is a concentrated environment where people come because they want to improve, they want to grow, they want to be better, they want to be around other people that want to improve and want to grow and want to be better, and they don't want the Karen down the street airing her dirty laundry in public. So we got none of that noise, just pure, unadulterated empowerment, support, and growth. We teach structured habits and higher standards, which we've talked about a lot already this evening. We have regular content and course themes that are driven by our members' needs and wants. That's exactly why this was created, because people wanted to have a short presentation about motivation. When you join it, you get access to our team of experienced mentors, and we regularly upload short new courses based on community feedback. Some of those courses and some of the challenges that we run, like Operation Recalibrate, include practical exercises. So we're not just listening and learning, we're going out there and practicing this stuff and putting it into practice. And it's a place for ongoing discussion and that important word, accountability. So if you join the community site, what do you get? Well, you get community access for a start to that group of people that want to empower and support and help you. Monthly themed content that we just said. Live Q&A sessions. These are, super valuable when our mentors jump on and they get to, you get to ask questions, they answer them. That's just another level of value that we added. Ongoing standards and accountability. We've talked about this a lot this evening, but it's so important that it warrants repeating. And then what we also do is we work with a lot of other companies in the veteran community and the emergency services community who have their own businesses and offer us bespoke discounts for any of our members, for any of the businesses that they run and the services that they offer. So what are we asking of you? Well, if this webinar resonates with you and you want an environment that enforces ownership rather than feeds fear, the Kaizen community is for you. And you'll be happy to know we dropped the monthly subscription price by a huge £20 a month, because what we realized was, or what we decided was, that we wanted to create something and we wanted to build something that gave unmatched levels of value to our members. Some of you are already in it, so you know about it. There's some of the things that we're talking about. We are continuing to build and to build and to build and to build. There's a lot of stuff going on in the background. Ben's still writing tons more courses. We've got a huge backlog of content to create. We're creating live events. We're partnering with more and more people. We are interviewing and putting through a quality assessment process more and more mentors from similar backgrounds to ours. So this thing's only going to get bigger and better. So for a small investment of $9.97 a month, you can become part of that community and get access to all of those things. So if you want in, I know some of you already have, type I'm in the chat box below and Ben will send you a link. Thank you guys for listening. Appreciate you for tuning in.
Cool, Mark. Amazing. Thank you very much. I will go ahead and knock the recording off there. And if we've got a couple of questions for Mark that you want to do live, then we can get a couple done. So first of all, thank you very much.